When did you come to Harlow and why did you come to Harlow?
August 1957, and we came from Bromley by Bow in the East End because we were sharing a house with my mum and dad, which they were renting, and when the council came round and spoke to us, they said, well, we're going to knock all these places down and we'll rehouse you, but we will only rehouse you all together. And by that time I was married and had a 3-year-old daughter, so we didn't really want to be with mum and dad. They were going to get a flat near, I think they went near Mile End and got a flat there. So we started, well, my husband started to look at new towns. We looked at Stevenage first, and then we decided, no, that was too far away from all our family, because all our family were in the East End. Most of them moved to Dagenham, but we thought, oh, we'll have a look. My brother lives just outside Epping, so he knew about Harlow. So he took us around Harlow, showed us the new town, and so my husband took the next week off work and just walked around the town looking for a job. He was never to be called a carpenter. He was always a joiner. It's a very different thing, a joiner, because he did a 5-year apprenticeship with a firm in Stratford. But he finally got a job with one of the small firms in Harlow that were making television cabinets round, like just nothing, no, just wood, but that was it. And all he was doing was sticking the blocks inside this thing. But anyway, as I say, it was a job, and obviously we registered with Harlow Council. Boy, it was a development corporation then, wasn't it? And within a week we got a house, and it was a lovely 3-bedroom house in Spring Hills, which had just been built, again like Martin, full of mud and everything going on, but to us it was just heaven. A lovely bathroom. Oh.
And so what those early years, you know, as you said, August 57, you said, yeah. What were your memories of those first days, first weeks, in fact, first years?
Well, when we first moved in, there was a row of where I lived, 152, and then along that row there were about 10 houses. So it was meeting all those people and the children and everything. And then my husband, after 2 weeks, at the weekend, he decided that he was going to dig up the garden, because it was just earth then, obviously. Try and put some grass down and that sort of thing. But on the Saturday when he started, he spent all day digging, and on Saturday night when he went to bed, he woke me up with this terrible pain, and he was bringing up blood and God knows what else. It was awful. And because we were only there for 2 weeks, so we hadn't registered with a doctor. Nobody had phones then, phones indoors. So I knocked up my next door neighbour, and he went round to Colthatch and rung there, tried to get a doctor, which he did. Doctor came, decided it was a burst ulcer, a stomach ulcer. So immediately rushed him off to hospital, which was St Margaret's Hospital then, because Harlow wasn't here, the Harlow Hospital. And it was an emergency operation. And boy, did it show from the outside, because the scar was from here down there. But they did it so quickly that they over-sewed it, just like an old sack, you know, when you used to over-sew sacks. That was just what his scar was like. But fortunately, he was okay. Stayed in hospital about 4 weeks actually, and that was difficult, even getting to visit him, because we didn't have any transport or anything.
So you had to get a bus?
I got a bus. I made friends with a woman along the road who agreed to look after my daughter for me when I went and visited. So I used to walk up to the town centre, get a bus to Epping and visit him then. So that wasn't a very good start.
No,
2 weeks
no.
after living in Harlow. But, you know, it was one of those things.
And I guess one of the things you described there, we talk about the word infrastructure, but as you said, where was the hospital? And again, reminding ourselves, here we are in 1957, still got the mud, but no hospital. But the town centre was there, so everything was provided from the town centre, I guess, when it came to shopping. Would that be right?
It was just being developed.
Right.
It wasn't developed as such. The Stowe was the first development of shops. And my brother actually was manager of one of the shops, the furniture shops in the Stowe at one time. So he knew about Harlow. But no, Harlow Town Centre wasn't properly developed yet. But it, you know, was halfway there. And I used to walk up with the pram and go shopping up there. But of course there was the rowers' shops, the neighbourhood coal hatch. They called them hatches, didn't they, in those days? That's what they were named. And there was 5 or 6 shops there where you could get what your daily needs were.
And you're a very outgoing person, sociable
Yes,
person. Did you build up a group of friends?
Yeah, I made friends. We were both very sporty, my husband and I. So the first thing I did really was find out, because netball was my main game. So I tried to find out if anyone, and then I read in the newspaper that a PE teacher from Markhall School was trying to get together a netball club. So I went along to that meeting, and from there Harlow Netball Club was developed, and that was 60 years ago. Yeah, so we went on from there, and then I did voluntary work at the sports centre for years, coaching athletics, netball, indoor games when the sports hall was open, because the netball was before the sports hall.
Right.
We used to play on what was called a red grass area, and boy did it hurt your knees when you fell over, because it was just shell. Oh, it was awful.
What position did you play in netball?
First of all, I played goal attack, and I was a very good shooter. But years back, after that, about 5 years after that, we took on a man netball coach who was very keen to do some coaching, and he decided that I would be better as a centre. So I became a centre, and he put all the tall girls up at the shooters, and that worked. I've got a lovely picture actually of the teams that I'm going to put on that board. So yeah.
But and the sports centre was very important in Harlow's history, isn't it?
Oh,
You know,
huge!
it
The
was
first
natural.
sports centre in Britain.
Is that right?
Public sports centre. There were sports centres, but they were private, attached to private schools and things. So our manager, George Torkildson, he was a teacher that came to Harlow as a PE teacher at Braesgrove School, and then they advertised for a manager, and he was taken on as manager of the and it was a sports trust. It was a charity then. Well, it always was, until they started to pull it down and build the leisure zone, and then it became something different.
Which sounds like you regret that a bit.
Well, it was so lovely being in amongst people who wanted to do things together and not thinking of money at all, who were just thinking of sport and coaching the youngsters and making life good for them, really.
And so the netball team, what period, and the sports centre, what period are we talking about now? Are we in the 60s now? Are we?
Yeah, 62, 1962, I started the Harlow Netball Association, which I'm still president of. And in 1964, when the sports hall opened, then we developed it even more, and we used to have matches there every Tuesday evening for a league, a netball league, and we just ran it for years and years and years, and it's still running now, and it's still got 32 teams in it.
Brilliant, that's great. And did you always, are you still in Spring Hills, or did you move from Spring Hills?
No, we were there for 20 years. Then my husband, being a joiner, he thought he might like to do up an old house. So I wasn't very keen. I loved where we lived. And in fact, I got quite depressed then. First time in my life I'd ever been depressed. But we did. We bought this old house in Sawbridgeworth, and he did it up. And it only lasted about 8 years because I hated it. But we did it up and we sold it on. And, then we moved out to Hatfield Heath for a few years. And then by that time my husband had started his own business. But in the late 80s, 90s, you know, businesses went under, didn't they? And it looked like we were going to have to go into liquidation. And my husband couldn't stand that, so he took his own life.
That's very sad, isn't it? It's
Very sad.
Yeah.
Sad for all of us, but sad for him because he'd done so much. You know, but it was something that I thought was a possibility. His family were very nervous people.
Yeah. But do you think it's important, and I'm really enjoying, you know, this interview, as we're enjoying relative words, is that we don't airbrush history. You know, and we're talking about Harlow's history and people's history, saying, but that happened, didn't it?
It did.
You know,
absolutely.
we couldn't say actually whatever year 1989 was a great year, because it wasn't. You know, but that's important for people to say.
That was an awful year for so many businesses. They went under. Especially one-man bands, you know, who didn't have the cash flow.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
And the customers, always the very rich people, of course, never paid you on time, held back the money for months and months, and that's what brought it on. And that was he thought that was his life. And it wasn't. He was so loved by everyone because he was a very kind, gentle man.
So how did you recover?
It took me about 3 years.
3 years?
Of constant counselling.
Yeah,
I did private counselling as well. But it was very hard.
Yeah, because it's interesting, and this interview's slightly taken a tangent, but in this week when they're talking about mental health and people being open about, and you're saying, well, hold on a second, you just didn't invent this in 2017. Did you feel you could be open then about saying, I'm really grieving?
I did, because I'm that sort of a person. I'm a talker. Some people didn't want to hear it, especially his family.
Right.
They didn't want to hear it at all. But I thought that that's what he did, and when he did it for me because it would leave me with money, and that he thought that was better than having him. Not my idea, but his idea. So in this day and age, people, especially men, still can't talk about things, can they?
No, you're right. And so, what's your message to if somebody in 2017 is struggling, and what's your message to them?
Just try and find someone who will sit down and listen to you. They don't have to talk, they just have to listen. That's all it is, listening. Because your family, I have 2 daughters, grandchildren, they didn't want to hear me talking over and over about it because they'd moved on, but I hadn't. So I had to find someone else to talk to me, or just let it out. And that's why I did pay for counselling, because that's the only way I could really do it.
And here in 2017, you're very much involved with the U3A.
I am.
You enjoy it?
I love it, yes, I love it. I've always done voluntary work ever since the sports centre. I worked at the CAB for 12 years. That was great, I loved that. I worked at the hospice fundraising for 10 years, voluntary. But I always sort of do voluntary work 10 years. I try not to overstretch the 10 years because you get stale and bored about certain things. But the U3A, you can move on to different things. I started this life writing group, which again is a wonderful thing to do, and get your story down for your family to know what went on. Most of my family didn't know all this that I've been telling you, but I wrote my story and they all have it now, and they can't believe, that we went through that. But they always think of me as, quite a well-off woman who's always had money. No, I went on the dole in 1957 and got £2.10 a week.
Your memory's great. I have to say that. When you talk August 1957, you talk about the amount of dole. Is that natural, or you just? No, it's natural. I'm interested. I'm just interested in things. I'm a, what do I call it? I'm a freak with information. I'm an information freak. I read things and I cut them out and pass them on to people. Did you know this? I go. Yeah, but the life writing group is lovely. And it's still a busy life for you in 2017, and long may you thrive.
Thank you.
Rita, thank you very much for your time.